Welcome to Buckets, your daily NBA betting podcast, live from the Tommy John Home Studios. When you're truly comfortable, you do everything better, and that includes betting. We've got your bets for the Wednesday play-in card, Bulls Heat, Kings Mavs, the 9-10s. I don't know who I pissed off to get these games, gentlemen, but here we are. I'm your host, Brandon Kravitz, along with my crew of sharps, Michael Fiddle and Bryan Fonseca. Guys, I'm still buzzing off of the beatdown that the Magic just gave to the Hawks. Trae Young getting booted from the arena after tossing a basketball at an official. Truly one of the more memorable nights of my broadcasting career. And this now sets up Magic Celtics in round one. The Magic are 22-1 to win the series. The Celtics minus 8,000. Bryan, any early read on this series that is now set? I know we will have longer episodes here on this Buckets channel in regards to this, but I'm in the building. I just wrapped up the broadcast. I need somebody to talk me off of this 22-1 ledge.
Well, I'm not going to do that because as I talked to Matt Moore earlier this morning on my YouTube channel, and I asked him, who is the play-in team that has the best chance of winning a playoff series? And he responded with your Orlando Magic. Not anybody from the Western Conference. It wasn't Golden State. It wasn't Memphis. He went with Orlando because of the way that they could defend the Boston Celtics. The Celtics like to shoot a lot of threes, and the Mavs allow the fewest. They like to take away the three-point shot. Brandon, as you know very well, Fiddle, you as well. They just don't have the offense really to compete with Boston is my concern. If they had Jalen Suggs, I mean, I didn't think they were going to. I think they're probably a year away from us being like, like, could they actually? And I think ideally you try to win a game or two, be competitive, defend your ass off, and hopefully this summer try to do something substantive to really add to that team. Because I think Orlando is in the middle of a run, so to speak, like consecutive playoff trips, for the first time in I don't know how long. You probably know off the top of your head.
Well, you had the Vooch, Aaron Gordon, Evan Fournier years, but those were early exits. They won one game apiece against the Bucks and the Raptors in back-to-back years. But legitimately being an interesting playoff team, you got to go back to 2011 when Dwight Howard was on the team.
Yeah.
The Magic do match up well with the Celtics. They're 6-3 over the last 9 straight up against this team. Some Jason Tatum misses in there. Fiddle, talk to me. I need you to help me out with the math of this because I feel like one of the best bets on the board for this 22-1. You want to take a stab at that, have some fun with it. You're probably going to lose that wager. I do think the Magic can win a couple of games in this series and make Boston sweat a little bit. At the series going longer than 4.5 games is minus 144. That feels like a great bet. Or are you better off if you liked that to just take the Magic money line the first couple of games and see if you can hit on that rather than laying into that level of juice?
So I'd have to run the numbers and take a few minutes to do it. But right now the Magic are a plus 660 in game 1. And so they're probably looking plus 400-ish game 3 when they're back at home and being about an 8.5-point dog once they switch arenas. I actually think the most fair way to bet it now, if you like the Magic, is probably the 22-1. I was actually it's funny you say, Fiddle, I need you to help me do the math. I'm literally over here pulling up the Google calculator on the other side and doing, what's the market hold of a minus 8,000 and a 22-1 on the other side? It's like 3.5%. So normally when you bet into minus 110s on a game line, you're paying close to 5% market hold. When you bet into futures, it's close to 10%. Often when you bet into some of these series prices, you get close to like 6.5%, prop 6.5%. So to see this market open up and say there's a 3.5% rake rate or market hold, or how much the books are expected to make if they get even amounts of liability on both sides, what is their take-home rate? About 3.5%. So genuinely fair to take it from the 22-1 angle. That being said, minus 8,000 prices this as the Celtics a 98.5% chance to win the series. 98.5% chance to win the series. I mean, there's a minus 6,000 out there on the Celtics. There's a minus 8,000. There's a minus 10,000. So I honestly can only think about betting the Celtics angles. I can only think about betting under angles in these spots. I genuinely think the Magic stand absolutely no chance with how quickly Boston can score and how slowly sometimes it takes the Magic to score. So shout out Cole Anthony for having a big game. He's going to have to reproduce that against Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Peyton Pritchard, and those kind of defensive hounds on Boston.
I will say, if there was ever a game to play out that makes you hopeful if you are a Magic supporter, and I understand I got my goggles on right now, so just bear with me. 26 points from Cole Anthony off of the bench. Anthony Black, 16. And Paolo and Franz only combined for 30 points. The Magic don't win games when those guys don't score into the 20s. And so better days are ahead for those two. But we will save that for another episode, and I'll let the buzz wear off. But I'm going to end up on that in some angle of this series, at least going beyond the sweep or the gentleman's sweep that a lot of people would predict. A reminder that everything that we talk about today can be found in the award-winning Action Network app, as well as quick slips for our picks today in the episode description. We're going to go around the horn, give our picks. We'll get into it, and we'll get out of here. We have two games to choose from here, the 9-10s, Bulls Heat, and then Kings Mavs. Is anybody going to take a stab at that one? Fiddle, we'll start with you. What you got here on the Wednesday slate?
Heat +1 is going to be my favorite bet on the card currently.
I am going to face you head on. One of the first bets I made when the board opened up was Bulls -1. I'm a little upset that this line hasn't moved where I'm getting the best of the numbers, so there's some concern there. I'm thinking that might be where you have landed on Miami, because it does seem like that would be the sharp side. Common sense would tell me that when this line opened at 1, that it was going to get bet up to 2, 2.5. It hasn't budged. So that is a little concerning, but I am dug in on Chicago. Bryan, I believe you're going to find a way to creatively agree and disagree with both of us. How is that?
I'm going back to one of my old tricks. I have Heat first quarter Bulls full game. That's +331. I have Heat first half Bulls full game. That's +550. I also have Bulls fourth quarter money line, which is already available at -102. And I also just added Nikola Vucevic over 10.5 rebounds at +105.
Okay. All right. I'm going
Usually I don't
write
bring
all
that much
down.
to that many bets. That much whatever. English, stupid language.
Repeat that one more time. What was that? The bevy of bets that you have on this game?
Okay, so we got Heat first quarter, Bulls money line +331. We have Heat first half, Bulls full game money line +550. We have Bulls fourth quarter money line -102, and just added Nikola Vucevic over 10.5 boards at +105.
Wow. Okay. So, and how many of those are parlays, and how many of those are isolated wagers?
Two and two. It's 2 and 2. That's it. And in fact, one book in particular has it built in already, where it be in first half this team, full game the other team, and that's the +551. We're taking a stab there because I feel like if you've done this with the Heat, they've probably gotten this more than just about anybody else because of their constant second half collapses.
Now, I wonder how much of that is the line that is sitting there, or odds makers knowing that the second this thing goes live, this is probably going to end up tilting in favor of the Miami Heat. So perhaps if you do like Chicago like I do, and you don't want to get into the weeds like Brian Fonseca is, another way to play this would be just to say, I'm going to wait until the Heat have a lead early and bet the Bulls live. Fiddle, we're going to have to spend a lot of time on Brian Fonseca's picks. Why do you like the Miami Heat? Am I right on that this is a market read, that everyone is going to want to be on Chicago because we're out on Miami and you're coming in as the contrarian side?
Well, something that we've seen when lines are priced for a few days is kind of rebounds and retaliation and fights over numbers in the market. And so the first wave of action was a little bit of bulls when the line opened -1. You saw a lot of these lines go to -1.5. Now they're all coming back. So that second wave of action coming back on Miami. You guys are talking about like, oh, if Miami starts with a lead or they do this or that you end the bulls here. Like if I hear that, I just give you the Miami Heat instead. Miami Heat have the two best players in this game. Correct? We all in agreement there? Hero and Bam, two best players on the court?
Bam, yes. I'm not sure.
And the other one's an all-star. There's been no other all-star, so I'll move on.
The worst all-star this year of all the all-stars who made the all-star game, yes. But
sure.
Kobe White is playing better than Tyler Hero right now.
Spoelstra, best coach out there with rest and prep time for this game and a whole bunch of experience to bring to the table being in these big spots. So with the secondary market being towards Miami, and here's the kicker, guys. The total has come down from 224 to 219. 5 points of movement towards an under in a Bulls game is unheard of. There have been a team that are blindly profitable backing the overs on closing lines and normally taking steam that direction. So the movement towards the consistent under on the total showed me that's where sharps went first. They let people grab the Bulls early and then came back on the Miami Heat. So I could only think to play this Miami Heat. I think the under is probably a bit priced out now. We're at 219. I even look a little bit towards the over, but I would just stay off of it altogether. But I truly think this is a Heat or nothing spot. And to bring in the math of it, you're going to see lines and money lines all over the place. The 1 versus the 0 or moving off the 1 is worth 6 cents. So right now at FanDuel, it's +1 -106, and a money line that's +100. That isn't, those lines are completely equal. I would choose the +1 -106 because as if I'm driving a car or if I'm betting, if I could get fair value on insurance, I'll pay for the insurance and I'll worry about it later. So I will take the -106 +1 Miami Heat at this point in the market.
Fiddle, you're so good at reading the market movement. So I am tip of the cap at your market reads and the work that you put into this on a day-to-day basis.
The fact that I have a screen right here 24/7 with the numbers at all times.
Exactly. But I'm going to push back a little bit on this because I don't feel as though the sharp side that wants to be on Miami has really created any value for themselves. We haven't seen much line movement here. Yep. So it does feel like a bit of, calling it an overthink is a little bit reductive, but it does seem like the sharp side that wants to be on Miami didn't exactly get the value that they were hoping for here.
Sure, but I also think you could say it's just a well-priced game when we get to this point in the season. Like, we have so much data on both of these teams at this point that the lines should be very well priced. And so you're not going to see as much movement here. You're not going to get as many injury news breaks that move lines at the same distance and rate that they do in the regular season. But that being said, you also have to consider when the limits have changed. So early bettors are not allowed to get down as much money as what's come in later in the market. And then you could also flip that around, Brandon, and say, well, if the books are holding the line at 1 and not flipping Miami to be a favorite, like maybe they're accepting it. So there's always two sides to the coin. For as many people as say like, oh, I want to back the sharp side, you have to do it at the right number and the right price because the casino is opposite the sharp side. And so the people say two things. I want to be on the sharp side, or the house always wins. And that's why they have billion-dollar casinos in Vegas. Like, which one is it? It's neither. It's about getting the right number at the right price and the right value.
Absolutely. I think it is such an important point to bring up, and something that has helped me become a profitable sports bettor is 1, stop saying that you have bad luck, and 2, you've just made bad bets, and just admit that. You say it to yourself in the mirror and then get past the whole luck factor of things. You're going to experience luck in both directions, but looking at sports books as if they have some crystal ball out there that you do not have access to, once you shed that sort of mystique, you allow yourself to actually place confident wagers. So it's an important detail to throw out there. The Action Network app is showing that 70% of the bets are on the Chicago Bulls at -1, 68% of the money. So just slightly less money coming in than the percentage of bets. Fiddle, what does that tell you as far as this conversation that we're having here? Because I think when it's lopsided, 70% of the bets, but 50% of the money is on the Miami Heat, that tells an obvious story that people that are betting with real dollars are betting one side. But it just doesn't seem like there's much to learn from the percentages that are out there on action.
Yeah, so kind of a convoluted. I really never look at betting splits for these things because what it's showing. I mean, for this particular game, the lines haven't moved that much, but if the line moved 3 points, and then any betting split is irrelevant because at what price did these numbers start to come in on, right? So it's just like the bets could be over here versus over there at different numbers, and then it's all kind of moot. Action does a good job at giving you like a relative sample, but if I were to actually value betting splits as like an indicator for handicapping, which I don't, to be honest, I would like them at one specific book and not a compilation of what's happening in the market, because you also need to factor in, like, for this specific game, like, DraftKings under handle is going to be bigger because they opened the total at 224, whereas every other book came in lower. So if you looked at specifically FanDuel's handle on the total and they had more over action, that's because everyone who wanted an under went to DraftKings and everyone who wanted an over went to FanDuel. So there's so many nuances between line movement and which book and when it was placed and all these things that it really just becomes kind of a wish-wash, and you're almost talking yourself in circles and trying to tell yourself a story with these as indicators that might not actually exist.
Bryan, before I move on, where do you fall on that? Judging, do you want to know before you place a bet, or even if you're undecided on one, what those betting splits look like? Does it matter to you at all?
It depends. Sometimes too much information could just paralyze me, and I'm just like, all right, like I'm just going to make a pick or not at this point. And it depends on whether or not I give a shit about the game. This team, I feel like with the Heat specifically, I feel like I have a pretty good handle on this team. They're probably the team that I've made the most money on this year. Definitely in terms of fading, that's generally been the case. It's either them or the Suns. And a large portion of that has been what we've just seen on the court. And there are existential factors that, like, I think Fiddle's right to believe in terms of, one, you could argue at least they have the two best players. I would say in a one-game sample that matters a little less. And I would say like Eric Spoelstra's far and away the better coach, but he hasn't really been Eric Spoelstra, star for the last 2 seasons. Like, he hasn't really been that. And it's a one-game sample. It's a one-game sample. You know what I mean? Like, that's the other piece of this. So for me, we'll get to my bets. There are just a lot of different factors that go into it. But at the same time, it's like, this isn't a 7-game series. If it was a 7-game series, I'd have some hesitancy in either direction because neither of these teams are fundamentally that good. But the Bulls have been playing a lot better lately, So that would be something to consider. But for a 1-game sample, there are a lot of other factors that we may factor in that may or may not actually be relevant to this specific sudden death March Madness style game.
I just want you to use your hands like that every time you say Eric Spoelstra, where you kind of like a ray of sunshine there. There's like a sparkle.
I was thinking of the old Desus and Mero rainbow before they broke up.
I think we all pictured it, whether you're looking at the video feed or not. Well, I'll get my Bulls bet out there, and then we'll get the complicated side from you, Bryan, in a moment. Bulls -1 for me. This is just a case of simply backing the better team. Miami has had a nice little spurt at the end of the season, but I'm not buying it. At least not as much as I'm buying it with Chicago. Ever since they traded Zach LaVine, I have really liked what I've seen from this team. They're 11-4 straight up in their last 15 games. Miami hasn't been bad. They're 8-7 during that stretch. They actually have a slightly better net rating, which is why I think you have such a tight number here. Miami, though, has the 4th worst road cover rate this season at 41%. The Bulls also own this series. They're 3-0 against Miami so far this season, average win margin of 8. Miami has also won this matchup in the play-in the last 2 years. So if you like that trend, you should like the Miami side. But Chicago is due to win one of these games against Miami because there's a certain individual that's not in this game that was in the other ones, and that's Jimmy Butler. And last time I checked, he's a pretty big factor. So I like Chicago to win and cover the number. Bryan, would you like to?
What do you want first?
Just
what do you want first?
Just
give me
go.
the Vooch rebounds, because I actually think I'm going to bet it myself.
He's gotten 11 in both games that they've played this year. He's played 33 and 35 minutes in those games. You would expect that to be maybe 38, maybe even 40, perhaps. The Heat have not been a great rebounding team this year. They've been better in the Khalil Ware Bam minutes, but Nikola Vucevic has seen some success against this team and against his front court, even Bam, although Bam often has to switch. I'm not even sure he's going to be guarding Vucevic much. That may be a Khalil Ware responsibility, which also lends itself to, hey, can Vucevic just get the rookie in foul trouble and, be able to clear the pathway to getting more rebounds there? Like, I'm wondering if Eric Spoelstra is going to have a quicker hook for some of the younger guys, because in these big spots, he doesn't always want to play the younger guys. The fact that he's starting Khalil Ware or has started Khalil Ware for a good portion of the season has been a surprise. But with Nikola Vucevic, yeah, he's just played well from a rebounding perspective against his team this year. And in general, like, I think rebounds, but also rebounds, assists, it's something that's probably worth monitoring. If you just wanted a little bonus there, he had 8 assists the last time these two teams played each other less than a week ago. A week ago for the people hearing this on Wednesday. They will hear this on Wednesday because of the time we're recording this, actually. And with the assists, like, the Bulls have done a better job of, and I wonder if this is going to be a part of their offense. It's like, just dumping it off to Nikola Vucevic as he's rolling, but he's at the top of the key, and then he'll turn, find somebody on the wing, a shooter on the wing, whomever it may be. Maybe it's Kobe White, maybe it's somebody else, and be able to knock down that shot. Like, this is something they've done against the Knicks in particular, although the Knicks don't guard the 3-point shot that well sometimes. And I wonder if that's going to be an element of their offense here too. So I like the rebounds, but I think the rebounds plus assists are interesting. But I like the rebounds straight up. I think he could get to 11 again.
Well, when you start to break it down piece by piece, you end up on my side of the equation as far as taking the Bulls, because part of your full cap outside of the prop with Nikola Vucevic is you like the Heat to start hot, to start with a lead, and then tail off as the game goes along. I mean, that's essentially the way that you're betting into this, right?
This is the way that they've played. This is the formula, So they've played each other 3 times this year. By the way, the Bulls have won all 3. And all 3 games, Jimmy Butler was not there. Miami led 37-32 at the end of the first quarter and led by 10 points at halftime in their game in February. And the Bulls ended up winning that game by 9, outscored them 39-21 in the fourth quarter. Remember, fourth quarter money line for the Bulls is something else that I like here. In March, they played again a month later. The Heat led 36-24 at the end of the first quarter and led by 7 points at halftime, if my math is correct, quickly. And they ended up losing the game 114-109 because the Bulls outscored them 36-20 in the fourth quarter of that game. And then the last game that we saw them in on April 9th, Miami was winning 32-27 at the end of the first quarter. The Bulls got back the lead because they had a good second quarter rather. So this wasn't a spot where the Heat led at halftime, but they did lead after the first quarter a third straight time. And then the Bulls went on to win the game. The fourth quarter was 27-27, actually. So just a straight up draw. But you see the trends there. Also, the Heat, just not one of the worst fourth quarter teams in the NBA for the last 2 seasons. And they ended 21st in fourth quarter margin. There's some bullshit in there because actually in the last week or 2, they beefed it up by playing better down the stretch. But for a good portion of the season, they were in the bottom 5. And on the road, it's even worse because their fourth quarter margin is actually like around that bottom 5 territory. And they're going to be on the road again. But in their last 3 games, their fourth quarter margin was 5th best in the NBA, which is not who they've been all year. So that's why that number is a little bit skewed. And their winning percentage in close games is the 28th in the NBA this year. The only 2 teams worse winning percentage in close games were the Pelicans and the Utah Jazz. Both of them suck. And on top of that, you have this other stat. This is the main one for me. Blown leads. Miami has just a ton, but blown fourth quarter leads in particular, 21. They led the NBA. The point margin here, I think it's close to double digits, but actually double digits, 22. They had the most in the NBA. So like they just blow a shit ton of leads. This is who they've been. I think Eric Spoelstra is great. I think Bam is elite. etc. Their profile this year is just a team who starts off well, who has a kind of a fake good defense. Like they can defend well, but it's not really to the level that they typically can. Bam is still covering up for everybody's shit and he's still elite. But at the same time, it's like they're top 10 in defense again, but it has not felt like that if you've watched them throughout the season. And the Bulls have just been a much better team. Like all these numbers that I threw out there, like the Bulls just are way better in these categories, especially down the stretch. Like after the trade deadline, people thought they were going to go sideways and they actually went the other way and looked pretty good. So again, 1 game sample, this could mean nothing. And the Heat could just do their Heat shit and win 98-94 and make people look stupid because they do this at some point, what feels like every year. This just doesn't feel like that team. And given the resume of what we've seen from these teams, especially the last couple months, the Bulls should win this game. Should. And they're at home. But It's not always how the NBA works. This is why I'm not taking the Bulls straight up on the money line, like for, just straight up the way you are, Brandon, for example. For me, I'm finding like these little spots here and there that have worked out. Hopefully 1 or 2 of them are good because plus money, and there's a lot of plus money into that. But the trends are just the trends, and I'm following the trends for this game.
It's easier to ride that roller coaster that you are going to put yourself on for this game tonight when you've already hit plays like this. But this is asking a whole lot for all of this to go as succinctly as you're asking it to, but creative nonetheless.
That's what plus 550 is. That's what plus 331 is,
Exactly.
Bryan, is it plus 331?
Yeah.
I kept hearing you say that, and I'm like, is he trolling? Because the other one's plus 550. Is it real? Because it wasn't even that obscure. It was like the first quarter versus the opposite money line. Those are normally like the sports book gives you that line outright. You probably self-created that one with individual straights, and then there's okay.
So that book has for you built in first half Heat money line for the Bulls,
but not
full
the
game
quarter
Bulls. But the quarter one wasn't, so you have to build it yourself, and it becomes plus 331.
Good thing we got that extra cent needed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you're into like the lotto or some shit, there's your number for the day. You can pop that in there.
I would think that when you build it yourself, you save yourself a little bit of that hold that Fiddle was talking about. Underdog just became one of the best places to make picks during the basketball playoffs with their extender promo. Check this out. With the extender, you can play your way to increasingly bigger boosts each round of the playoffs. Start a playoff series by using your Game 1 boost and continue boosting each subsequent game to unlock the next one. The longer the series, the bigger the boosts. Underdog is one of the leading sports apps, and you can play right now in your state. Their app has over 100,000 5-star customer reviews and millions of players. To play, all you have to do is download the app and choose whether a player is going to go higher or lower than one of their stats. You can choose things like points, assists, rebounds, and so much more. Kobe White was one of the best players in the league the final 2 months of the season. I know I'm going to be on his points, his threes. Underdog, such a fun way to play these games, and you can do cross-sport plays as well. Pair Paul Skeens of the Pirates with Luka Doncic of the Lakers. You can do all of that over on Underdog Fantasy. It's a ton of fun, always something worth clicking on in the lobby. Download the Underdog app, and when you sign up, using the promo code BUCKETS100, you unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. That's promo code BUCKETS100. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or Next Step. You can text that to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. We have not spent a single second on the Mavs and the Kings. This is the way that I'm playing into this. This is the worst cap ever, but I hope that somebody out there can appreciate this. At 215.5, I'm going to take the under. I'm going to grab my remote. I'm going to hit the off button, and I am going to go to bed. I resent the fact that this game is even on. And beyond that, Do I really trust either of these offenses? The Kings have been out of sync ever since they added Zach LaVine from Chicago and moved off of De'Aaron Fox. The Dallas Mavericks lost all of their offensive upside when Kyrie Irving went down. Klay Thompson is washed at this point. He's not interested. Anthony Davis is beyond checked out. He's already packed his bags for Cancun. I think taking the under here in a game that's probably going to be ugly and I'm definitely not going to keep an eye on is the way to go here. But beyond my general resentment, Fiddle, any look towards Kings Mavs?
I'm not going to go beyond your general resentment. I need to go further into it. It is utterly ridiculous that there's a chance a 39 or a 40 win team, a team with a sub 500 record, has a chance of making the playoffs because one of these teams is going to win this game. And then as we're recording this, it's a 3-point game between Grizzlies and Warriors. We're going to get a possible 48 win team. When the Kings were the 3 seed a few years ago and the Nuggets won the championship, the Kings won 48 games and were the 3 seed. There just happens to be a lot of tanking for Cooper Flagg and stuff. So there's a bunch of teams that have fallen off. So now 48 wins is the 7 or 8 seed. But we're looking at 9-10 and it's 40 and 39 wins and sub 500 teams. Enough of the money grab, enough of doing one extra game. We don't need it. There should maybe be a 7-8 game just for that spot in the West. But honestly, I just think we should have left it as is. A few years ago when we instituted the play-in, when it was the bubble, right? And we like kind of were doing this rule. I think it was you had to be within 8 games of the cutoff. So maybe that would allow the Kings to be in it, but not the Mavericks. Okay, let's play a one-off game between Kings and Grizzlies for the 8 seed. Count the Warriors as in it. This game is utterly pointless. If we get to a point, I'm actually kind of hoping for this. I kind of hope the Warriors lose tonight, and obviously this will be old news by the time it's over, but if the Warriors possibly lose to the Mavericks and the 39-win Mavericks make the playoffs instead of the Warriors, this rule will be changed this summer. Like, there is no way it would stay in existence because the money grab for one extra game would be so overshadowed by the loss of Steph Curry in the NBA playoffs and this Golden State team. So it would be insane. Like, just cancel the game. I did bet Kings -4.5, but I will not be watching it, and I agree with the protest. It fucking sucks.
Yeah. Bryan, any objections to these complaints?
As an aside, John Moran rolled his ankle, and he looks to be out. So that's not great.
4-point game right now.
Yeah.
No Ja.
Yeah. As it pertains
Has
to
he done
Mavs,
a gun celebration yet, by the way? I haven't been paying attention.
I looked after he made a 3, and he just seemed to look at the Warriors bench, so no. Okay. As it relates to Mavs Kings, I all the plays I had for Heat Bulls, and I might add more. I just tried to parlay something that one of the books won't let me parlay, so I'm going to get to the bottom of that in a second. But I listen, if Dallas had Kyrie Irving, I actually would have liked them in the playoffs from the standpoint of, like, they could be pretty interesting. Like,
they'd have 43 wins, not 39.
And they would be interesting.
And they would be at home for this game, and they'd be a 2.5 3-point favorite.
And
they'd be interested. This team has lost interest. Neither of these teams want to be playing basketball.
Did we hear what Nico said at the press conference today, guys?
Yes. It's still coming out, but yes.
He does not regret the decision.
That he didn't realize Luka's impact to the city until after the trade was made.
Oh, that's the worst thing I've ever heard.
He was pressed about Luka signing the Supermax, and he insisted that he wasn't sure that he was
that Luka wasn't going to sign the Supermax. Oh, my. And even though Luka said he was going to in his debut Lakers press conference. Well, there's more interesting things to talk about with both of these teams in the actual game. That should say enough.
Well, when you're trying to cover up for bad ownership, then, you have to twist yourself in a pretzel to defend them, I guess. But that feels more and more like an ownership call. But, I don't actually know that, and no one's going to report that. Anyway, I wish that Kyrie Irving was healthy because I would have loved to see that version of the Mavs against the Thunder. And for this game, like, Anthony Davis, I do think is interesting prop-wise because who the hell is going to stop him if he's healthy? Now, you need him to finish the game, but at the same time, like, Domantas Sabonis, unfortunately, he's a guy you can pick on from a defensive standpoint. And the Kings are going to have the edge in shot creating, and ultimately, it's like, who cares? Because the winner's going to get steamrolled by the Oklahoma City Thunder anyway. So, It is what
Well
it is.
said. If you want to tail any of the bets that we have discussed in this episode, you can find the quick slip link in the podcast or YouTube description, or go to actionnetwork.com/bet-now. And I'm assuming you're going to need that link based on what Bryan Fonseca handed out to you. Let me see if I can spit this out. I like the Bulls -1. Fiddle likes the Heat +1. We're also going to collectively protest the Kings and the Mavs and take the under at 215.5. Heat first quarter, Bulls money line, Heat first half, Bulls full game, Bulls fourth quarter, Nick Vucevic over 10.5 rebounds. Did I get that?
I thought about adding
Okay.
either Tyler Hero or Kobe White over in the first quarter. Hero's at 6.5 points. Kobe White's 5.5 points. They're both plus money. I think one of those may hit. Maybe both. I don't know. But I just looked at it. I haven't played anything yet. And listen, just bet responsibly. That's all I'm going to say. All right.
Yeah.
The economy's in a bad place. Like, you don't need to be out here throwing down reckless amounts of money on NBA.
You could
playoff
say
games.
plus EV wagers are the safest place these days. You think you guys are laughing like it's a joke, but okay.
I mean, look, to your point.
I'm only laughing because of Brian's card. That's that.
I, Brandon, it pains me because you weren't here last year. I did 15, 20 podcasts with Fonseca last season, and we haven't been paired together as much. It used to just be a running joke when we would log in. Fonseca's doing Heat money line. What's new today? It pains me to see him on the Bulls here.
They haven't been that team for 2 seasons, and it's unfortunate. But they'll probably be in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. I don't think they'll get them. I think they'll get beat out, but they'll probably be in those sweepstakes, and then who knows?
They've been in the sweepstakes for the last 10 years. The evolution of Bryan Fonseca book coming to shelves near you. Shout out to our producer David
That will
Payne.
be my second.
That is a wrap.